You are going to hear from 5 different people, but there's definitely going to be some consistency in their messages this evening. You're certainly going to hear about individual honors at the state, the conference, the regional, and even national levels. You're going to definitely hear about championship teams that they were part of. And without question, these individuals were leaders of their team, not necessarily, demonstratively or vocally, much more subtle in that regard, but they were extremely reliable. They provided statistics each and every night that the coaches could count on when they wore the Viking uniform. They also had the unique ability to make their teammates better players. And I think something that we certainly talk a lot about in our committee, what have they done after Bethany, especially in terms of athletic involvement, staying involved with sports, and all these individuals have done that as well. The first individual we're going to bring up this evening is Brent Thomas, and you are about to hear one of the more unique stories we've ever heard from anyone during these ceremonies about his path in becoming a Bethany Viking. Came all the way from Rockford, Illinois. Tonight, Brent becomes only the second wrestler ever to enter our Athletic Hall of Fame. I had a conversation with Brent a few weeks ago, and to hear him talk about his wrestling career, it did not take long to discover many of the same traits that he has with the first Viking grappler that's currently in our Hall of Fame, Jerry Banky. If you've ever spent any time around the sport of wrestling, there is a passion, an intensity, a drive that is at the core of anyone who puts on the headgear and walks out to the center of that mat. With Brent, you combine all of that, and then you also have the rare combination of skills and the smarts that took him not only to 3 national collegiate tournaments, but also the opportunity to represent our country on the international stage. And just like Jerry, Brent found a way to give back to the sport that he loves with a successful coaching career for over 3 decades. Tonight, it is my honor to introduce for induction into the Bethany Lutheran College Hall of Fame, Brent Thomas. We're going to just hold this up here to the side. Okay. We'll take a little picture and actually move over a little bit more, then we'll get on it. There we go. Yeah, if you want to sit down, that would be great. Sit down and we'll let you go.
Thank you. It's been a while. It was 1976, my senior year in high school. Rockford, Illinois, public schools threatened to cut all extracurricular activities if a tax referendum did not pass. After a promising wrestling season my junior year, it appeared that my wrestling days were over when the referendum did not pass. No sports, no wrestling. To this day, Rockford Public Schools wear a black eye for this decision. As an uneventful senior year was coming to an end, I received word that my good friend and former teammate, David, was killed in a car accident on his way home from college his freshman year. At this pivotal time in my life, I felt hopeless and indifferent about the future. Colleges weren't interested in recruiting a wrestler that didn't wrestle his senior year. My 2.0 GPA from that year didn't make things any better. Days and weeks passed after my senior year till a midsummer day when I received a phone call from a man who introduced himself as Paul Twite from Bethany Lutheran College. Paul then offered his condolences for the loss of my friend David. You see, David Palomino was on his way home from Bethany Lutheran College when he was killed in that accident. David was an outstanding wrestler, outstanding high school wrestler that Paul had recruited a year before. Paul went on to say that David had told him about my situation. I remember Paul using David's words, "We got to get this guy here." I had no idea that David had been speaking on my behalf. It had been 2 months since David had passed, and David and I had not spoke in months leading up to his death. It was 1977. No cell phones, no texting. I do remember writing a couple letters, with an envelope and a stamp. But it never crossed my mind that David would have mentioned me. Bethany offered me an opportunity, and they were more than generous in giving me incentives to come. My freshman season went about as well as I would have imagined. I was able to shake off some early rust and settle in nicely. I placed first in the Itasca Invitational, was runner-up in Minnesota Junior College State Tournament, and finished the season by qualifying for the national tournament. What a blessing it was to wrestle again. I remember entering my opening tournament of my sophomore year full of confidence. I had won my first 2 matches and was well in control of my semifinal opponent. I remember the final minutes ticking down. My opponent took a shot at my legs. As he dumped me to the mat, I posted my right leg. I was told later that you could hear my knee pop from across the gym. Back to Rockford on a badly torn meniscus for surgery, on a badly torn meniscus that had my knee locked in place. The good news, the ligaments were intact. The bad news, it was 1978. Knee arthroscopy was not widely available until the 1980s. They had to open my knee. I'm not trying to date myself, but I'm doing a good job, I know. I could give you 4 or 5 good reasons why it would have been wise to sit out that season, including my doctor's skepticism about any chance of a return that year. But from the time of the injury, I knew I had to try. I know now that was God's plan for me. God's plans for us aren't always easy, though. It wasn't. But through his healing hand, I returned to competition late that season, finishing first in the state and qualifying for the national tournament for a second time. I know now it's not the accomplishments that stay with you as much as the journey, the struggle. Bethany wrestling was more than just an extracurricular activity to me. I was given an opportunity when I wasn't expecting it. It filled a void in my life and gave me a sense of direction when I needed it most. But there's no question that wrestling was my proverbial carrot before the donkey. My wrestling days at Bethany opened doors going forward. I finished my college career at Taylor University in Indiana, where I was blessed by my experiences there as well. But today, I carry with me a reminder of Bethany wrestling days. I always carry it with me, as a matter of fact. A total knee replacement in my right leg. Thank you, Paul Twite, for recruiting me to Bethany. My thanks and prayers go out to our head coach, Donnie Johnson, who I hear is not well these days. Thank you to Ron Young and the rest of the Hall committee. It's my understanding that Ron's input had a great deal to do with me being here today. I appreciate it, Ron. Thank you. To my parents who are always there for us and have been there for me throughout my wrestling career, congratulations to the other Hall inductees. Thank you, Bethany Lutheran College. I am humbled and blessed by this honor.
I should mention, speaking of dating yourself, is it okay that I let everybody know you had a birthday back about 10 days ago?
Yeah, you can do that.
All right.
I'm beyond that.
We're beyond that. I'm not going to share your age or anything like that. You look pretty good for 65, by the way. Okay. All right. Well, unlike Brent, the 4 remaining inductees share a similar recruiting path using 2 tried but very true itineraries that put a lot of championship seasons on the junior college banners you see in the lobby of our Sports and Fitness Center. One path is the smaller public high schools within about an hour here of Mankato. And for a guy with a tremendous blend of speed and power like Eric Schutte, his recruiting road to Bethany was via the Lutheran high schools, his being from Mayer, Minnesota. Here to talk more about his former player is Eric's Bethany coach, Art Westphal.
President Pfeifer told me to keep this really short, and I've never been really good at following directions. So congratulations to all the other inductees. Great story, Brent. Fortunately, I had the chance to watch all the other athletes. You were here a little bit before I I came back to coach. And so I've been really fortunate that I've been involved with this since the very beginning. And it's always amazing to me the emotions that I see during this evening. Obviously, a lot of great stories. I've seen a lot of tears shed. And I think what that points out is that the emotional involvement that athletes have and what the life of athletics means to them and what it means to us here on campus. And then also it's a great thing for me to be able to reflect on how important teammates and player-to-player relationships are, and then certainly player-coach relationships. I can honestly say that there's really nothing that has replaced that in my professional life since I got out of coaching. So just quickly, with all the athletes that are here, remember now, for those of you that may not remember or be aware that at the time when they were playing, we're playing in the National Junior College Athletic Association. And we're playing in the Minnesota Community College Conference. The Southern Division of the conference, I would equate it to today a conference that we play in. And the Minnesota Community College Conference would be equal to maybe taking all the Division III schools in Minnesota and putting them together in a conference. And then the regionals would be, neighboring states and those kinds of things. So there was quite a path. So as you hear the success that a lot of these athletes and teams had over the time, that may put it in a little bit of perspective for you. So I have the pleasure tonight to introduce two really special people. And they do have a couple of things in common. And one, they're very successful. I think when I did the first one of these, I didn't need these, but obviously 2 years, they only played 2 years here. They won 4 divisional championships. Their combined conference record was 64-20. My math is right, that's 75%. Their overall winning record was 102 wins and 39 losses. Pretty good. Pretty good. I think we'd all take that. And I think, too, as a coach, something that's always really kind of special to you is when your former players go into coaching or teaching, and both of these young guys have done that. If I refer to them as kids as we progress tonight, that's kind of still what I think about them. And I think you always think about those relationships. So let's talk a little bit about Eric Schutte. Eric is the 15th. I've had the pleasure of doing this 15 times before. And it's occurred to me, too, that 28 years ago, when we put the criteria together for the qualifications for the Hall of Fame, it's like we might have wrote this for Eric Schutte. The kind of athlete he was here, the kind of student he was here, the character that he displayed, what he did after he left here, and what he's doing today. It checks all the boxes. And so it's hard to believe, and Eric and I were talking a little bit about this, that it was 30 years ago that Eric and I first met. And that was because of his high school coach, Coach Lane, who actually is here tonight and had a chance to talk to him. Coach Lane sent a lot of good players. I owe him a lot. He made me a lot better coach. He sent me a lot of really good players from Mayor Lutheran. And so upon that recommendation, it didn't take me very long to realize the talent Eric was and what I thought would be a great fit here. So Eric was picked and selected to play in the Lions All-Star Game, which is the high school All-Star Game in Minnesota. And at that time, prior to the games, they would invite all college coaches and the scouts in, and they would run 60-yard dash. Eric won it. Eric was the fastest of the best high school players in Minnesota. So when I saw that, I'm thinking, he was catching in high school. What was Coach Lane thinking? This guy can really run. We're going to move him to the outfield, which we did. And honestly, I would have to say that Eric might be the best pure athlete. This is no offense to any of the other guys that I coached, but the best pure athlete that I had the pleasure of coaching. So he's a terrific baseball player here. Then he goes on to Concordia, hasn't played football in 2 years, and becomes an All-American. He's an All-American in baseball there. And to my knowledge, he's the only graduate of Bethany that has had professional tryouts in 2 sports, football and baseball. I know we've had some baseball guys that played some minor league baseball, but not 2 sports. I mean, that really speaks to the athletic ability. And quite honestly, I probably didn't realize what we had here when he was here. And so I think the other thing as a coach, what you really value in players and any of those that have coached is consistency. Eric, it's like it doesn't get any more consistent. Number one, every day how he showed up for practice and what his work habits were and all those kinds of things. But listen to this. So he hits 307 as a freshman. He hits 308 as a sophomore. Pretty consistent. His freshman year, he had 39 hits in 37 games. Showed up every day. His sophomore year, he had 33 hits in 38 games. So if 72 hits in 75 games, I'd say that's relatively consistent. And he, if he were standing here today, would say, yeah, those are great stats. But what's really, and by the way, he was all division and all Minnesota Community College Conference as a sophomore too. What did the team do? That would be more important. Well, the teams that Eric played on here were 53 and 22 in the 2 years. And in the conference, they were 37 and 11 in conference play. They won 2 divisional championships, 2 regional championships. And by the way, in the regional championship game, his sophomore year, he had 3 hits. All those athletic accolades, in my opinion, are trumped by who he is and the kind of person that he was and what he displayed here. He was quiet, but yet he was the captain. He was willing to help the freshmen. Now, believe me, that some of us take that for granted. Some sophomores like to have fun with the freshmen. Eric helped the freshmen and taught them and helped them through. He was, I think, beginning his coaching career at that time. And you know, I think he was embraced by his teammates, and I always like to reach out to some of the teammates to ask. And here's what a couple of Eric's teammates said about him. He was a great teammate. He had great work ethics, fun to play with. He was also a person of high character. He had a great work ethic, an all-around great person. Very lucky I got to spend as much time as I did playing with him. Eric always did what was asked of him. He's a teammate who sacrificed himself for the better of the team. He was a silent captain and led by example on and off the field. Prime example of what an athlete is and should be. He was an athlete that had drive, work ethic, and smarts, good teammates. This is an interesting story. One of his teammates shared this. Anytime I passed the gym in the evenings, mostly in the evenings when I was going to my work-study job, Eric would be in the gym, usually by himself, with a bag of balls, a tee, and a net. His work ethic was nothing like I'd ever seen before. And then he still refers to him as captain. Now remember, these guys left Bethany in 1995, and this guy's still calling Eric the captain. And then one of his teammates I had never heard this. He said his nickname was TP, total package, which in baseball meant he could hit, he could run, he could throw, he could field. But then they also said that sometimes around campus, there were some ladies that referred to Eric as the total package. And so I found that interesting. But then he went on to say what a great person and what a great example he was for him as a teammate. And, you know, Eric continues to have that kind of an impact now as a high school coach, as a teacher, and is a great Christian example to the young people that he has coaching. He's taken a high school basketball team to the state tournament. And I fully believe had it not been for COVID, he had a baseball team that didn't get to play, that had they had that opportunity, could have been another state tournament team. So it really gives me great pleasure, and it was an honor for me to have the opportunity to coach Eric and welcome Eric now as the newest member of the Hall of Fame here. Congratulations, Eric.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate the kind words. I'm surprised there was no Packer or Wisconsin Badger talk in that one, 'cause I thought he'd throw that one in there since I tried out for the Vikings. But he knows I was a Packer fan, and he certainly loves his Wisconsin teams. On behalf of the Hall of Fame committee, I thank you guys for your time. And I know this takes time up out of your day, and I appreciate your time and effort to keep the history going here, especially with Bethany athletics. Special thanks to Jake. Jake did an outstanding job, by the way, as I think all the Hall of Fame committee members would say, with communication. And thank you for your patience with my lack of replying to the emails within a timely manner, by the way. I got a call back in May from Pat Garvin about this, and those of you know I coach high school basketball and baseball, and Pat's the men's basketball coach, and so I deal with the guys all the time, and he's calling me during practice for high school. And at that time this is last spring, 3 of my players have already committed to other schools, so I thought he was calling to recruit some more of my players. So it was during practice, and I didn't think much of it, and I got busy for a few days. And then I actually texted my players to ask, did you guys decommit? Are you guys going to Bethany? I was kind of excited about that. But that wasn't the case. He called me back a couple days later, and I could tell from the voicemail it had nothing to do with that. It had to do with this honor. So I appreciate that call, Pat. Congrats to the Hall of Fame members. Brent for being the second wrestler in, Stacy for volleyball and basketball, Matt for basketball and baseball. I believe you were a couple of years behind me, so you set the wave for us when I came after you to keep it going. And then for Kelly, it's special because we went to school here for 2 years, and not only volleyball, basketball, but I actually didn't even know you played softball. And I thought about why I didn't know. It's because our seasons were during the same time, so I never got to see you play. So that's incredible that you did 3 sports. And that's crazy, so congratulations to you, and enjoyed my time with you here. As most of you know in the bio, it says a lot about Concordia University, where I had a lot of my success at. And there's a lot of reasons for that. And I had so much success there fast that I was fortunate enough to do a speech somewhere like this in 2008 as I entered that Hall of Fame. And my wife can contest to this. I've always said to her the last few years, I wish that would have happened later in my life, because my sons I had one that wasn't born yet. They didn't get a chance to listen to that and perspective in life. And then I was only 10 years out of college when I went to that one, and there really not much going on in the 10 years that would make that meaningful in my life. This is 30 years. So I appreciate the fact that I get an opportunity to do this again, because there's so much in 30 years that have happened that relates right back to Bethany and how it was a special place. Without Bethany, there wouldn't have been a Concordia University success. A big word for me is foundation for this school. I've been fortunate enough to have an outstanding foundation with my family, Christian family. Sent me to Christian parochial school and grade school, which prepared me to go to Mayor Lutheran, another Lutheran high school. And I didn't get to choose those two. They chose those for me. And wouldn't you know that I picked a Lutheran school to go to for college, from not only here, but at Concordia. And all those were foundation pieces, very structured foundation pieces to get to where I am today. So this was hard for me to put together with 30 years of trying to figure out all these awesome things that have happened that relate to Bethany. This was really hard for me to put together in a matter of 7 to 10 minutes. But my journey started in high school where I played 3 sports. My love was basketball. I thought I'd play in college basketball. I started to learn real fast that I was pretty good in baseball, and there was only a certain amount of rooms for 6-foot guards around. And as Coach said, I was really fast. I never even played football until my 10th grade year of high school. And it was simple to me. Give me the ball as a running back and run away from people. That was simplistic to me. I played that only in high school, and I was getting recruited both football and baseball. Boom, boom, boom. And back then it was letters. There was no internet. There was no social media. You would know this is just a box of letters, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. Coach Lane, who's here, my high school coach, said, "What have you thought about Bethany?" Well, I've never heard of Bethany, okay, because again, no internet, I don't know. And clearly he had a player go there that's in this Hall of Fame, so he was very familiar with Bethany. And Coach, I remember you come into my game to watch me play. I don't know if you remember this or not, but I prided myself with a high average, low strikeouts. Coach is sitting behind the home plate, and I know I struck out 3 times that day. It might have been 4. And I thought, well, this is over. You know, it's we can cross this team off the list. And it wasn't until a couple months later, he called and told me, "I'd like you to come, and we'd like you to sign a national letter of intent." Yes, we were Division I, and yes, I still have that national letter of intent with, I think, a whopping $1,200 on there, or whatever it was back then. But we did get scholarship money here. And Coach had to call me up, though, in August, like the first week in August, and I still haven't made my decision. And those who know me know I take a long time to make decisions. He said, "Eric, you got to make a decision because I need to have you sign this. Otherwise, I got other players that I got to offer this to." And it was there that I decided to go. And it was one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. What he didn't tell me when I got to campus and we got into fall baseball, and I was a catcher, second baseman, shortstop. He didn't tell me, I don't know if it was fall or in the spring, that, "Hey, you're going to move to the outfield." It's like, I don't even know how to play the outfield. So I got moved to left field, and that's where I was for the most part. Sometimes I went to center field, and that's where I played actually the rest of my career. And then I actually, in town ball, I got to go back to catcher. So I played town ball for 28 years, and I got to catch in my later years. But I was an outfielder because I served the purpose of the team the best with my speed. And I didn't know that at the time, but I was just happy to be in the lineup. And I knew if I could be multi-dimensional and go play in a different spot, I would certainly get into the lineup. Now, for Coach, you got to understand, we have a lot of stories about him. And Coach never yelled. He would just give you the look. And we had some players on the team that could do that look really well, if you guys know how it is. And if you got the look, then you're in a little bit of trouble. One story I remember is Coach took us to Arizona. I think it was Arizona, Coach. You know, a bunch of Midwest boys. It was probably 20 below when we left. And of course, I'm sure it was a bus. I don't even know. There's no way. Coach was very budget oriented. So we took a long bus. And we get there and it's 90 degrees. I think it's Phoenix. I don't know. This is great. All right. Shorts, shirts. We look at the write-up for today's practice, pants and sleeves for the whole day, pants and sleeves. And I don't even know if we took our sleeves off, Coach. It was for some very hot days. And Coach is very prepared in his preparation. All right. Now, I had a coach in high school that made us shine our helmets before every game and our shoes. So I was used to this. But before every game, Coach would want us to polish our shoes up. All right. And the meaning behind that is as you're doing that, you're getting ready for the game. And preparation is huge for him in that. My first year, we played in the district final against Muscatine. I was fortunate enough to be here for 2 years where we played one game away from the World Series. Coach was so prepared, and we just told the story here. He didn't get to see Muscatine, but I know he knew about him because the practice before that, we got to batting practice, and the L screen was moved way up, and Coach struck out about everybody. He struck everybody out in batting practice that day. And the reason being is because we were facing a 90-mile-an-hour pitcher. And it was frustrating, but we knocked that pitcher out of the game. And so his preparation was key. One thing about Coach, though, is he taught me about relationships. Not so much, I didn't know that at the time, but continues to do that. To this day, most people get a birthday card from Coach. This was mine here in August the other day, last month, and he continues to do this. He doesn't have to do that. So what I've learned in my coaching career is to do things like that also for my former players too. So thank you so much on that. For the teammates, obviously you don't get this stuff without your teammates. And I keep telling people, man, if we were a four-year school back then, we would be really good. Boy, did we have some players. I don't think quite understand how good these players were in the 80s and 90s. I'll speak my era. And that goes for the basketball team he coached, and I'll speak in behalf of Kelly for those girls. That was some outstanding girls. I mean, if we were a four-year school back then, this would have been pretty good. We had players go everywhere, and I am still friends with a lot of those. The challenge here is that it's a two-year school. So when you come in as a freshman, the sophomores were leading, and you got to know them for 1 year, and then they took off. And then it was our turn, and then we got to know the freshmen, and then we took off. But I can guarantee you, everybody who's played here, especially in Coach's program, we're all still friends to this day and have a lot of great stories. I'm fortunate enough to be joined tonight by a teammate of mine of Dan Prane, who's in the Hall of Fame here, 2016, I think. He didn't have to come. You know, Coach, I played outfield for him. I don't think I ever had to catch a ball for him because he struck everybody out. But there's some people in this room, and Dan, I'm sorry I got to bring this up. Some people in this room know that Dan threw a pitch that went about 500 feet. Who in here knows this story? Ever heard of it? Okay? So we're playing Indian Hills. Chance to go to the World Series. They have 12 major league draftees on their team. The whole back fence was full of radar guns. Full of radar guns. Now, the field isn't here anymore, and I'm convinced Dan was head of the committee to get that field out of here, so this story goes away. The guy hit a ball, 89-mile-an-hour fastball that. I believe the tennis courts are still here, and there's a house, and it landed there, went over 500 feet. And the guy, I can't remember who was in right field, said the ball was still going straight up, okay, when he went through. Now, I tell that story because it was just a memory that I have that I've never seen before and I never will, but Dan is a good teammate of mine, and we were classmates here, and it was my privilege to play outfield for you, Dan, so thank you. Part of the story you haven't heard yet is my life in terms of, it can get a little emotional. I am oldest of three brothers. I'm the oldest, and my brother Adam is here. My next brother Jay could not be here. He's a principal at a Lutheran grade school, and then I have another brother John, who is in South Carolina, that lives out there, where they were unfortunate to make it here. Our father passed away when I was 15. Adam was probably about 12, and then the youngest one was about 7. So he only got to see me play 1 year of high school ball, which happened to be at Minneapolis Lutheran before I transferred over to Mayer. But I used the word foundation, that this place is a foundation for me. And I've been very fortunate to have a good foundation, and a lot of people here tonight represent that foundation. I do want to start with, let me back this up a little bit. Our father died at age of 15, and obviously he's not able to be here tonight. And our mother died about 2 years ago, lost a fairly quick battle with pancreatic cancer. And I know she would be here and be loving all this. So all these people at the table represent the foundation in my life. I do want to introduce, I have my 2 high school coaches here. Coach Lane, who is fortunate enough, I'm his second player here in the Hall of Fame. His nephew went in a couple years ago. Coach Lane taught me how to hit the outside pitch, or started to try to hit me outside pitch. I never did hit the outside pitch for you. I specifically remember you helping me do that. Coach Westphal continued that up the middle, opposite field hitting, okay? The unfortunate part is you two never got to see the results of that because it happened at Concordia U, where I was able to put 24 home runs out in 2 years. And guess where they went? Right center. I was a right-hander. So those are the things that I remember the most. Coach Lane is on his 42nd year as coaching at Mayor Lutheran and is still coaching to this day. Coach Palace was my basketball coach, coached 30 years. Coach, you and I would have conversations. I remember sometimes after games. This is before stats and VH. I mean, you actually would ask me questions about stats of the game, and I'd rattle them off without seeing stats, and I was pretty close on them. I think that was symbolic of me wanting to play, love basketball. Now, this is what I do. I coach basketball. If I couldn't play it in college, I might as well coach it. But we started my coaching career, I think, back in high school. So 30 years. All right. Now, my football coach would be here, except he's getting prepared for a game tomorrow, and he's still the head coach at Mayor Lutheran. Okay? So you can see the longevity of the people that I've been surrounded by and coaches. There's a reason why I'm coaching, and I'm on my 20th year going basketball and baseball. I think I learned it from Coach Westphal doing basketball and baseball here. I don't know how you did it. Also on my table, representing my father's side, is Gloria and Harlan from Mapleton. That's my godmother and godfather. Not here present tonight is my Uncle Paul and Luann. Unfortunately, sad story, he had a stroke here on Tuesday, and we think he's gonna be okay. He gave me a call this morning. He didn't have to do that. And I know he'll watch this on YouTube, and we miss you, and we pray that things will go well with you. Representing my mom's side would be Sally, his sister. She was there by the side for a long time as my mom suffered through that. And thank you, Sally, for being here. And of course, without Bethany, there's no Concordia, and then there's no Amy, my wife for 22 years, 23. She's counting. And the foundation there is her mom and dad, who are here representing, Joe and Mary Jo, who is a pastor. And without their strong foundation, Amy would not be the person she is. Now, Amy's a music director of a church, marrying a jock in college. So you can imagine she didn't even care or even know that I played football or baseball. My oldest son goes to Grand Canyon University. I've been fortunate enough that he played for me for basketball. He's gonna crush his sophomore year here. He's back over there. If you know anything about Grand Canyon University, fantastic place. My middle son, Caleb, is here. He's a junior, plays basketball and baseball. He'll play for me this winter. And he played for me last spring. And then my youngest son, 8th grader, Austin, is here. And Coach Craig and Coach Garvin, they're both here on an unofficial visit, by the way, okay? So keep those two in mind because they're fantastic ball players. Once again, I'd like to thank everybody for being here and for putting me in the history of Bethany. When I think about Bethany, at the end, I think I can sum it up in one sentence. I needed Bethany more than I think Bethany needed me, and I thank you for that. Take that back and show it off.
For probably 10, maybe even 15 years toward the end of our junior college athletic era, our Viking female rosters featured a lot of multiple sport players who were just tremendous all-around athletes. And our next inductee is definitely part of that tradition. Stacy Faber-Garbers came to Bethany from down in Interstate 90 in Sherburne, Minnesota, where she dominated 2 courts for the Mavericks of Martin County West. In one of those small school athletic conferences I mentioned earlier, and this one would be the Valley Conference. Here to talk more about Stacy's success at Bethany is her volleyball coach, Lynette Bernardy.
Thanks, Don.
Sure.
This is gonna, I'm so short.
I'm so tall.
You are.
I know.
Thank you. All right. What a great night. I've had the good fortune the last several years to come back and be a part of this celebration. And I have to say once again, what a joy it is to reconnect and reminisce with so many people that we share, so many memories and experiences and lots and lots of stories. Right, Don? Lots of stories. I would first like to congratulate each of the 2023 Hall of Fame inductees. It is a true privilege to take part in this special occasion as you are honored for your contribution to Bethany Athletics. Tonight, I am especially honored to introduce Stacy Faber-Garbers into this year's Hall of Fame. But before I do, I'm going to ask you to bear with me for just a minute. I shared a lot of time on both the volleyball court and the softball court with Kelly. And I could not pass up an opportunity to say a few words about her because we did have some really good times together. It was the fall of 1992. I was going into my second year as head volleyball and softball coach. Kelly was a member of my very first recruiting class, made up of 10 freshmen that, well, let's just say proved to be a very feisty and competitive group. Kelly not only possessed this feisty and competitive spirit, she played a major role in leading the volleyball, basketball, and softball teams to unprecedented success. As a three-sport athlete, the awards and recognition she received speak for themselves, but it is impossible for me to put into words what Kelly and the 92 through 94 volleyball and softball teams meant to Bethany women's athletics and to me. Not only did she lead both programs to back-to-back division titles, she played a significant role in helping both teams to national tournament appearances her sophomore year. As I reflected on those early years, so many memories came flooding back. For example, the sheer joy in watching Kelly and her teammates celebrate Region 13 tournament championships for the first time. Trips to Miami, Florida and Hutchinson, Kansas to compete in national tournaments. And how will I ever forget sitting in a 15-passenger van in traffic in the Florida heat, trying to get to a beach in southern Florida for what seemed to be hours with no bathroom in sight. Just imagine that little scene for a moment. Kelly, you and your teammates helped establish a tradition of excellence and put all three Bethany women's athletic programs on the map. In so doing, you helped to set the bar for what proved to be a decade of success to follow. I will be forever grateful that you allowed me the opportunity to serve as your coach. Being a rookie myself, you will never know how instrumental you were in helping shape my coaching career. Kelly, congratulations on your induction into the hall tonight. I, along with the institution, thank you for making Bethany your home the first 2 years of your college career. Thank you. All right, thank you for that. I just needed to say a few things. Anyway, now fast forward 10 years. Stacy Faber-Garbers. What a joy it is to introduce you as one of the newest members of the distinguished Bethany Lutheran College Athletic Hall of Fame. I have to take a minute to share a quick story, and Stacy, I'm gonna try not to embarrass you too much. When Stacy messaged me back in May to introduce her, I was of course beyond thrilled to accept. And I went on to explain to her that there was no doubt that she is one of the most deserving players I had the privilege to coach. But in true Stacy fashion, her response was, and I quote, "I was so surprised and humbled when I got the call." We then spoke on the phone a few weeks ago to touch base, and as our conversation ended, she told me once again that she was so very surprised and humbled and was not at all expecting to receive this kind of recognition. Well, the call ended, and my immediate thought was, have you forgotten about the awards and the recognition you received, the huge role you played in the success of both volleyball and basketball teams? You were named an NJCAA Volleyball First Team All-American. That just doesn't happen by accident, and it certainly doesn't go unnoticed. It took me only a second to realize that Stacy's reaction in response to receiving this honor was really no surprise to me at all. In fact, the humble and grateful attitude that came through in that brief exchange is, in true Stacy fashion, an example of the exemplary character I came to respect and admire very early on in our time together. After establishing herself as a standout athlete at Martin County West, Stacy took to the Bethany classroom and court as a no-nonsense, focused, driven, and very competitive individual. She was steady and consistent, and her on-court demeanor was one that garnered respect and notice. I never once saw her lose her cool or buckle under pressure. She possessed an impressive level of confidence and carried it in true Stacy fashion with a humble and reserved attitude. Stacy was a powerful outside hitter, saw the court extremely well, and had the ability to hit around or use the opponent's block to her advantage. She had a very high volleyball IQ, and her line shots were virtually impossible to return. What's more, she played with passion and intensity every second of every game and practice. Stacy, along with her talented teammates, and I am not ashamed to admit this, made my job an incredibly easy one. When things got tough, they knew exactly what had to be done to turn things around, and more than once, a timeout consisted of exchanging some solid eye contact in total silence. I actually felt like a spectator and a fan rather than a coach at times, and let me tell you, they were fun to watch. Speaking of fans, and I see a whole bunch of them back there, I want to take this opportunity to recognize Stacy's family. Thank you for the unending support you provided Stace through her college athletic career. The honor she's receiving tonight is a direct reflection of the influence you all have had on her life, and I am beyond grateful to have had the opportunity to share in Stacy's success right along with you. Okay, Stace, let's review. First, you received awards and recognition at the division, state, region, and national levels. On top of all that, you played a significant role in leading the 2002 volleyball team to an impressive fourth place finish at the national tournament with a record of 4-1 in pool play, losing in the semifinals to the team that would go on to win the national championship. Impressive accolades, to say the least. But what's really important is that the recognition you received as a student athlete does not pale in comparison to what I remember about your impeccable moral character, your unrelenting commitment and dedication, your outstanding work ethic, the willingness to put others before yourself, all while remaining loyal to an inerrant sense of humble gratitude. So yes, while you were just getting it all done in true Stacy fashion, your time here at Bethany had a memorable and long-lasting impact. And this is exactly why I am honored and overjoyed to introduce Stacy Faber-Garbers into the 2023 Bethany Lutheran College Athletic Hall of Fame.
Good evening. I want to start off by saying thank you to the Hall of Fame board for nominating me, and I want to congratulate the other 4 members that are also being inducted tonight. What a great honor and accomplishment. I also want to thank my family and friends for being by my side tonight. As Lynette said, I am extremely humbled and honored to be a part of Bethany's Athletic Hall of Fame. I was shocked, to say the least, when I got the call from Pat Garvin. He actually left me 2 messages before I finally returned his call. Sorry about that, busy mom. I was born and raised on a farm in Martin County, and I am the youngest of 3 girls. For as long as I can remember, volleyball and basketball has been a part of my life. I was fortunate enough to have two older sisters that taught me and pushed me to be the athlete that I am today. I also must give credit to some awesome high school teammates and coaches. And I cannot forget about my parents, who taught me about respect, determination, dedication, and hard work. My love for volleyball and basketball came at a young age. My sisters and I had a hoop on our garage. No pavement, just gravel. We played many games of lightning, around the world, and a horse, often at all hours of the day and sometimes night under the yard light. We took our parents' and high school basketball coaches' advice that athletes are made in the off season and went to as many open gyms as we could. We had a volleyball net set up in the front yard and played many games with family and friends. You could often find us at the lake or with family friends on holidays having a competitive game of volleyball. Basketball was my favorite sport in high school. Thanks, Raj. I will never forget when I was a freshman and my sister Angie was a senior. We were playing against Martin Luther, and let's just say the starting five were not playing well. Our coach subbed them and gave us younger girls the opportunity to play. I believe I was the leading scorer that night, and I recall there were a few other games where this may or may not have happened. The next 2 years, when I was a sophomore and junior, these were some of the most fun years of my high school career. We were in the best shape of our lives and averaged 70 to 80 points a game. We ran the floor well and didn't lose many games in those 2 seasons. We accomplished a lot of goals, but never made it to the state like we probably should have. And that is still a dagger in my side and something I will never forget. I cannot thank my high school basketball coach enough for those incredibly fun years and for being here tonight. When I got the call from Lynette and Lyle about coming to visit Bethany and not only playing one sport, but 2, it was a childhood dream coming true. At that time, my parents were still milking cows, and I wanted to pick a college that was right for me, but also close enough to home so they could make it to my games. We set up a campus tour, and I met Don and Lyle and Lynette, and I guess you can say they did their job because this was the only campus I toured. Making the decision to attend Bethany was one of the best and most rewarding decisions of my life. The people I met are still some of my closest friends today, and I will forever be grateful for my time, teammates, coaches, and professors here at Bethany. Some of my fondest memories at Bethany include when we first came to start practice in August. We had practice twice a day, and I never thought the hardest part of the day would be after practice climbing 4 flights of stairs to our dorm room, not once, but twice, as our muscles were so sore. Another memory was when we traveled to a tournament in Iowa for volleyball, and my boyfriend at the time, now husband, showed up with a car full of his friends and cheered us on. They were the loudest fans in the gym, and I remember Lynette saying, "Man, can they come to every game?" I also can't forget when I was a sophomore and we made it to the national tournament in Toledo, Ohio. It wasn't Florida or Arizona or even California with a nice warm beach. It was Toledo, Ohio, where the only highlight of the city was a zoo, which we did not go to. We ended up with a 4th place finish, which was not what we hoped for, but how many college athletes can say they made it to a national tournament? We had a talented team, and I could go on and on about the memories we made along the way. Lynette, I will forever cherish our time together on and off the volleyball court. Thank you for sharing your love of volleyball with me and helping me to succeed as an athlete. I also cannot forget about our assistant coaches, Crum and Radke. Thank you for your knowledge, support, and friendship. On to basketball. I went from a 3 power forward in high school to a 5 post here at Bethany. I never thought I would be referred to as a big dog and to throw me a bone. Lyle's famous words. Lyle had us in the best shape, even if those ladders and 16s in under a minute were not our favorite drills. Because of it, we won a lot of games. We had a lot of great times on and off the floor. Our Florida trip was a memorable one. I don't think we won a game while we were down there, but we sure had fun on those scooters we rented. Shorty and Bourne, I think, were the only ones that crashed. Lyle, thank you for all your knowledge and support on the basketball court. I know he couldn't be here tonight, but I know he'll watch and listen. I had some of the best teammates and could not have asked for a better group of girls to play alongside. We made some of the best memories that I will cherish forever. And I can't forget about Adam, Corey, and Melissa, my assistant coaches. They helped us to be a great team. I'm excited to watch my 4 girls grow and hopefully get to love the 2 sports as much as I did. I am forever grateful for my time at Bethany, and I thank God for bringing me these teammates and coaches. Thank you.
Amanda Stahl, we need to recognize her efforts as well because there's a lot going on, and Amanda's keenly involved with all of that. We also do have with us tonight 5 current members of the Hall of Fame. Up front, part of the inaugural class of 1995 is Ron Young. Back in 2006, Art Westphal went in along with former President Dr. Marvin Meyer. 2015, Steve Yeager, representing men's soccer, went into the Hall of Fame, and that was followed, as Eric had mentioned, Dan Prane went in the following year. So those 5 currently in the Hall of Fame, and as we move on to our next inductee, you've already met 3 new members tonight. The 4th one joining them, this time we're going to travel west of Mankato on Highway 14 to a spot between New Ulm and Cortland that has been the high school home to countless future Vikings over the years. There have been a lot of Minnesota Valley Lutheran Chargers that have gone on to become Bethany Vikings, but not many have had the lasting impact or impression on our campus as Matt Custer. It's also really cool to see some of your high school buddies here, MVL Chargers. I think that's awesome tonight. So if I don't mention that, I used to work for one of them, so I'd get in trouble. So Yatzer, I got you covered. All right. You're about to hear the athletic accolades that earned Matt a spot in our Hall of Fame, but as one of the few Bethany colleagues who's actually worked here longer than him, and as the former director of athletics, I want to thank Matt for his tireless efforts and service to our students and to his Savior as an educator, athletic trainer, physical therapist, and certainly as an NCAA administrator for years as our faculty representative when he used to get a t-shirt every year, and that's what he got for doing that. So. Very important job, but thanks very much for your service in that role as well, Matt. But let's get back to his athletic accolades. To talk about that is his former coach, Art Westphal.
Actually, you said everything I was going to say about Matt, so we can just move. You know, during the break, and I don't know why I didn't qualify this, but during the break, someone asked me if I was related to Don. Well, and until that point, the night was really going great, I thought. Actually, when we hired Don, I think I gave him his first gift from Bethany, and it was a nameplate for his desk that said, Don Westphal, no relation to Art. You know, Stacy and Kelly, I got to tell you guys, I was the athletic director when you guys were playing here, if you may recall. And I can't tell you how much I valued your volleyball team in particular, how good it was, because matches typically lasted about 45 minutes. And then I could go home. In fact, there was a group of us, and I think Don was involved with this as well, that we actually kind of took a pool on how long the games would last. And no one ever took over an hour. No, we just destroyed teams. And so it was really fun to watch those matches. So Matt Custer is the 16th time I've had a pleasure of introducing a former player. And 28 years ago, when we set up the criteria for the induction into the Hall of Fame, it's kind of like we had Matt Custer's name involved. Sound familiar? A lot of really similar traits between Eric and between Matt. The only difference is Matt is a lot older. I've known Matt now, and I still think of him as a kid, but I've known him for 34 years, and that's pretty amazing. And you know, when I was watching Matt play American Legion baseball for New Ulm, and then I watched him play basketball at MBL, I knew that his mom had gone to Bethany. I knew that his dad had deep connections to Bethany. And I'm thinking, this is a lock. This kid is a lock at Bethany. But he wasn't responding very quickly or promptly to any recruiting materials that I was sending him. And then Tom and Judy, I don't know if you remember this night, but we were standing right outside of the gym after a basketball game. And Judy, you said to me, Matt's not too excited about Bethany. We got to make sure we get him there. Well, I'm certainly grateful that we did get him here, and guess what? He's never left. He's still a professor here, of which we're grateful for as well. So Matt was one of the few. Actually, when Marv Meyer asked me to take the basketball job, I was hesitant, but I thought, you know, a lot of athletes, high school athletes, play basketball and baseball. So it'll be a lot easier recruiting because we'll recruit kids that play both sports. Well, it ended up there were very, very few that could tolerate me in two sports. So Matt was I think there was one guy that played both for 2 years, and there was one other guy that played basketball for 1 year and baseball for 2. So Matt, as a basketball player, holds this distinction. He got the first technical foul of any basketball player that I coached. And it happened to be at Martin Luther College, where in those days, I think they maybe hired the officials from Sleepy Eye or someplace like that. And not long after Matt got his technical foul, I got one too. So it was somewhat hard for me to be too mad at him. So Matt's freshman year here, we played him out of position because we had a terrific center fielder. So we played Matt at second base. And I think he would say he had an okay year as a freshman. But that 1990 team was really, really special. It was the first time that we had won the Minnesota Community College Championship. We'd come close a couple of times, but that year we kind of broke through and won it. And on the way, Matt had a knack of getting the key hit when we needed it. We're playing North Hennepin here for the divisional championship, and we're in extra innings. I don't remember how many innings, but we're in extra innings. Matt was 0 for 4 in the game. That I do remember, and really hadn't looked very good at the plate. And so he comes up in the 10th or 11th or whatever it is, winning run on second base, gets a base hit. We win the division. He also hit a key home run in the Community College State Tournament that year in a key game that got us into the winner's bracket. Matt was one of the few guys that I coached could get a bunt single and hit a home run in the same game. So he had the ability to get the key hit when we needed it, and he just you knew there was more there. And that team also set a record with 27 wins, of which Eric's team then later tied. Then as a sophomore, Matt maybe had as good a year as any player that I coached here. He hit over 400 the majority of the year, and the only reason he didn't end up over 400 was because he hit everything right at somebody during the Community College State Tournament, and his average dropped a little bit. But he was all division. He was all Minnesota Community College. He was all region. He was named the outstanding player in the Southern Division, of which in the 15 years that I had the pleasure of coaching here, there's only one other guy from Bethany that received that award. So just an unbelievable award. The team, we won the Southern Division championship. And so the teams, we talked about the teams that Eric played on. The teams that Matt played on in the 2 years here were overall 49-17, and in conference play, 27-9. And so, again, the athletic accolades that Matt had here are pretty terrific. But the pleasure of coaching Matt and seeing the progression and how he listened and how he continually got better and how he conducted himself on campus was evident by a number of things that some of his teammates had to say about him. This is a guy who was a year behind Matt, and he talked about his recruiting visit here. And I would have Matt talk to recruits when he was a sophomore, which, after reading this, I'm not sure was such a great idea. So anyways, Matt's taking him out to the baseball field, and he asks this, and there's another teammate of Matt's with him, another sophomore, and Matt asks this young man what position he plays, and the guy says, well, I'm a catcher, and a pitcher, and a first baseman. And Matt looks at the guy next to him, who's our starting catcher, and he says, you better concentrate on pitching and first base, because this guy's our catcher. And then this guy said, I loved Matt and his brutal honesty. Another teammate says, a few words to describe him the first time I met him. Big smile, big heart, great attitude, and a guy that I want to be associated with. Same guy. A few words to describe Matt after being his friend for 31 years. Big smile, big heart, great attitude, good Christian, and just a good person that everyone wants to hang out with. Matt was a good mentor of how to give it all when you're competing. I would say that attitude and effort is what I took away from my 1 year playing with Matt. Now, the other thing was Matt had kind of a reputation on the team that he was a bit naive at times. So one of his teammates that for some reason we recruited out of Arizona told me the story that he had Matt convinced that in your yard in Arizona, you had rock movers instead of lawnmowers. And it took Matt almost an entire year to figure out that they were just putting him on. And so that was a challenge coaching him too, you can only imagine. Another teammate said, I really gravitated toward Matt right away due to his work ethic and leadership skills. I played against Matt in the summer before we were teammates and always admired his skills. When we both ended up at Bethany, we often partnered up in drill work, as I always wanted to be pushed, and we pushed each other because of his great work habits. Last teammate, and this one I found most interesting, and if you knew this guy, you would find it really interesting too. Matt was a year younger than me, but his maturity level was the first thing that I noticed when I met him. The way he handled himself on and off the baseball field, the basketball court projected a maturity level not often seen in young men, including myself, just entering college. Matt was always consistent in the way he carried himself. Oftentimes, actions, how you carry yourself, have more influence on people than words do. That was how Matt Custer lived, influenced me, and still does today. And he said that rubbed off on a guy like me who was a bit more, shall we say, obnoxious at that time. Now, probably Matt may know who that guy is. And so I certainly echo those compliments. Matt was a terrific coach. He continues now to be a great, excuse me, this is personal, a great example. We have a grandson here who had Matt for class and would meet everything that you would want, you would want your grandson to see. So great pleasure, Matt, for me to welcome you into and be the newest member of the Hall of Fame here at Bethany. Congratulations.
This is going to be harder than I thought. Coach, I got to do these two. Sorry, I'm getting old. All right. Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it. You mean the world to me. All right. Thanks to everyone else who made the time. Thank you. Congratulations to all the other. Hall of Fame inductees. This is awesome. Okay, so introduce myself a little bit. I came from New Ulm. My parents are here tonight, Tom and Judy. I'll probably share some things that maybe some of you don't know. There's a few of here that do know this. So let's see. History of our family, at least from my point of view at this moment in time. They had my older brother, Andrew, the normal way. Then they wanted to adopt a child that would be hard to place, and that's me. They had adopted my younger sister, Kimmery, who is Korean. They wanted to adopt a Korean boy, and the adoption agency said, yeah, we have a Korean boy, but you have to take the 5 sisters too. So it took the 5 sisters too. Then they had my youngest sister, Rebecca. If that tells you anything about what my parents and the home I was raised in, that made me the person I am today. If any of you, I know you can't see it, but this is all of us from way back in the day, and my sister Lori is here tonight. So I'll get back to my parents here at the end. Let's see, so I did graduate from Vale High School, 24 miles away from here or so. It was more of a basketball school. We did pretty well in basketball, 3rd in state in 1987, does that sound right? 1987, that was a great year. Had a lot of fun on that team. And then in the rest of my high school days there. Played baseball in New Ulm. For those of you who don't know, New Ulm, had the reputation of being baseball town USA for a long time. I don't know if they still are, but they were back in the day. So I went from playing baseball, 10-year-olds to 12-year-olds to VFW. Did we win the state VFW? I think we may have. So those younger teams, we would travel up to the Twin Cities and beat the Apple Valleys and the Eden Prairies and those types of teams. From then, after VFW, we played on the Legion program in New Ulm, which was pretty good. We got second in state and traveled to regionals there. Then I played on the Kaiserhof, which is an amateur town ball team. The story from that I played on the Kaiserhof, I suppose, my sophomore year in high school through my senior year in high school. And the deal was with the newspaper man is he can't put my name in the paper because I'll get in trouble with my high school coach because I'm playing on an amateur team at the same time high school was going on. So that was a good time learning baseball. New Ulm baseball was something special there. From there, I came here. So 89 to 91, I played basketball my first year, baseball both years. From there, I went to South Dakota State, got recruited to go there to play. Was a little homesick, decided not to play. One of the regrets that I have. But I don't totally regret it. I went to school, and that was good for me too. Met my wife at South Dakota State. She didn't like me at first, but I wore her down. From there, Creighton University, doctorate in physical therapy, worked briefly, private practice for a little while, now back here at Bethany. It's now my 25th year teaching. So that's history, my background. Also have a wonderful daughter, Jordan. She's here tonight, and wonderful wife, in Ruth. All right, talking about the Bethany athletic career for me. This is difficult because I don't talk about myself a whole lot. Those of you who know me and know me well know I'm quiet and humble, so this is somewhat difficult for me. So I apologize if I stammer and don't get things exactly right. So skill set for me, at least as I see it, Coach, you can correct me if I'm wrong, right? In basketball, play pretty good defense, pass first, score second. That was my style. That's what I learned at MVL. But I still remember, I think it was the first scrimmage we had here. Art never really yelled at me, but he did pull me aside and said, hey, you got to shoot the ball. I said, why would we pass it around for another minute for you to take the shot at the end of that? Why don't you just shoot it right away? I said, well, that's a little different. So college was an adjustment. Baseball. My skill set, pretty good all-around player. Prided myself on that. I know you guys aren't here to hear stats about me, but 380 miles an hour across the diamond, ran a 6.860, hit for power, hit for average. But I learned all that through New Ulm and through Coach Westphal. So give them the credit for that. Coach Pierce, I know he's not here tonight. I got a bone to pick with that guy. Let's see. So second practice or third practice in the fall, we ran the 60. So he teamed us up, so there would be 2 time clocks going and 2 people racing each other, right? And then the winners would team up and they'd race, and the winners would team up and they'd race, and the winners would team up and they'd race to see who was the fastest on the team. So I got to the last race, and I'm racing Peterson, Petey, for those of you who know. So they start the clock, right, and we're running, and I beat him by a step and a half. And they look at the time, and he's got a faster time than me. I go, that can't happen. So I got a bone to pick with Pierce if I see him. All right, so let's talk about the teams, much more important than me. Basketball, freshman year, took third in state. Great time with those guys, still got the picture, still think about it often. One memory, Coach, you'll remember this. This was Lyle Jones. You guys know Lyle Jones. He coached the men's team at Vermilion. So we were playing them, and it was towards the end of the game. And this is from Lyle. He told me after the fact that he said to his guys, hey, lay off me, right? He hasn't shot all night. So, of course, they laid off me, and I drained the 3 to win or whatever it was or something like that. So that's a memory that I have from basketball. The next memory I have is finishing basketball, the state tournament. I think we're at Normandale. Was that right, Coach? We're at Normandale. I get done showering up, right? I get out of the shower, get dressed. He hands me the baseball hat. We get on the people mover to head down south. So I got 0 break with that. I was so tired when we got down there, I couldn't go the first day, and Coach had to go anyway because he had to coach. I remember him being so tired. I don't know how he did that. With us. All right, so freshman year baseball, that was a special team, 89. We lost Kevin Henthorn due to an injury. Some of you may know him. He was a great player. He went on to pitch in the Texas League. I think he pitched in Japan. We lost him to a wrist injury. He would have been our #1 pitcher and our starting shortstop. We lost him beginning of the year. I believe he was injured playing basketball. Does that sound right? Intramural basketball. So guys, don't play intramural basketball if you're playing baseball. So I hit #2 in that team. Played second base, a little bit out of position for me, but that team was the most fun I've ever had playing baseball. State champs, of course. With that team. A couple stories from that team that I can recall. David Buckley, he ended up being our #1 pitcher after Henny went down. Describe Buckley. Back in the day, they pulled the fire alarms late at night as a joke, right? And he was the guy who had a dorm meeting at that time with all the guys and said, if anyone pulls that fire alarm again, they got to answer to me. So he was that type of guy. After, I think, our second series, I believe it was at Austin. I had a pretty good series there. He pulled me aside. I mean, he's a big sophomore, big stud pitcher, and he pulls me aside and said, hey, you hit the crap out of the ball. That's how that team was. We were rooting for each other, playing for each other. Another instance with that team is Henny. Although he couldn't play, he did the scorebook. And after that same series, we get on the people mover, and he hands me a baseball. I still got it. So this is a team, Henny in this case, saved the baseball for me. 2 home runs, blah, blah, blah. I don't care about that. I was never on another team where someone saved a baseball for me. Oh, that was something. That team was something. All right. Sophomore year, playing baseball, moved to center field. Leadoff hitter at that time. That's as probably locked in as I've been in athletics. We won third in state. We didn't win it all that year. But one stat that I'm pretty proud of there was when I was leading off, and Coach told me this, at the beginning of the year, you got to get on base. I said, fine, I'll hit leadoff and get on base. Right, so when I let off the inning, I got on base 26 out of 32 times. So that's over an 800 average there. Art was pretty good at letting me know my role. So that was my role. Maybe not figuring out rock moving, but never been to Arizona. How was I supposed to know? Right. Okay, so obviously didn't come here to hear all about stats and things like that, but let's talk about some stories. Have you guys seen the movie Major League? Sure. Okay, do you remember Wesley Snipes when he tried to slide into second base and didn't quite make it? Remember that? Okay, those of you who remember that. I remember throwing out a runner at third base, which was kind of like that. Playing center field, ball deep right center. In the air, I took it on one hop. I was going, if you give me the hop, I got a shot at this guy. It was a hit and run play, so he's round in second. I turn and fire strike to third base to Eric Castile, who I can still see to this day started laughing at the runner. Started laughing at him. Well, no one's going to run on him anymore. So that was that. I love playing center field. Coach knows this. That was my jam. Everyone get out of my way. If my job was to run down the baseball, I can do that. Right. Coach, you won't know this one. So throwing dirt clods. So I didn't know the Wisconsin guys were like that. So Henny started it, and then Mike Byer, who ended up playing shortstop, continued that. So we would take ag lime chunks and throw it at each other during the game, right, to keep each other awake and alert. But it turned into something we shouldn't have been doing. So, Art, if you remember that error I made at Normandale, playing second base when I allowed that run to score, I might have just got hit with the dirt clod. All right, a couple more stories. Then I got to say thank you. Derek Harmon's home run. This is awesome. Playing Waldorf. If you've ever been to Waldorf Field, really flat, right? And it was chain link fence. So one of my teammates hits a home run, probably 30 feet over the fence. So just as the ball's dropping on the other side of the fence, the left fielder and center fielder dive on the ground. And the umpires, of course, they couldn't see how far the ball went, right? They just saw the players diving, and they gave them a ground rule double, right? And the ball's 30 yards over the fence. So that was interesting. I've never seen that before. I actually had a friend of mine playing on the opposing team was the center fielder, and boy, do I ride him to this day. So, next story, Kevin Frakes, our first baseman. If any of you guys know Frakes, great hitter, great friend, sometimes a little dense. So, So left-handed on the mound. He's on first, holding the runner on, right? First pitcher makes a move over there and throws it over to him. He doesn't even move and hits him square in the nose, right? Blood coming down. I walk over to him, and then we, get him off the field. And go, "What were you doing?" He goes, "Well, I was looking at the girl out in the stands." So that's Kevlin, right? All right, last story I got is our Mickey Mouse play. Coach will know this one too. This was in freshman year state tournament. I believe it was the 7th inning. Coach, was it the 7th inning? We'd never run this play all year, but we practiced it. So we had bases loaded. So what we were supposed to do when Coach said Mickey Mouse, the runner on second base would try to steal and then see the runner on third and try to go back, try to draw a throw from the catcher, and then the runner from third would score, right? We never had that play or never ran it until the 7th inning of the championship of the state tournament game, right? So bases loaded. He calls Mickey Mouse, and I look over to third base. Right, and third base is Derek Woodley. I go, this guy can't run. What are we doing? Right, but he calls it anyway. The runner draws the throw, Woods takes off, right? Big collision at home plate, ball pops loose, boom, win the state tournament. So that's the Mickey Mouse play. All right, thank yous. Bethany Lutheran College. I love Bethany. Okay, I've been here 25 years, more counting my parents here, my brothers and sisters here. I love Bethany. I hope you can see it. Okay. Special place, Ron. Thank you, right, for all you've done for me. To my teammates and classmates, awesome. Special memories that I will take with me forever. One I got to talk through. This is going to be a little bit more difficult. We lost a teammate. So, Chris, his wife June is here tonight. We lost Chris Rogers to cancer. Still miss that dude. And I met some friends through Chris, Ikes. Thanks for being here. High school buddies. Thanks for this. We call ourselves the 8-pack. 4 of us play golf every Wednesday. We're all married, so we call ourselves the 8-pack. Travel together. Do just about everything together. I treasure that relationship. Hopefully it continues to go on. Coach, appreciate all you've done for me. I know I thank you every once in a while, but I need to thank you again. You taught me a lot in terms of baseball, but you taught me to be a man. Thank you for that. Tom and Judy, my parents, thank you. I won the lottery with that one, okay? You have done so much for me, and I wish I could return it. I will try. I don't know if I'll be able to, but thank you. Thank you. To my wonderful wife, Ruth, I wish I could have shared my time here at Bethany with you, but I hadn't met you yet, so. Jordan, it's my daughter, okay? Love you. Just want you to know back in the day your dad could play too. Okay. Lastly, to my Savior, Jesus Christ, I hope I haven't let you down with all the gifts that you've given me. To God be the glory.
Just hold on. You got a little harder over there.
Oh, Christ. There you go. Solve the problem.
Don't make it in here.
I only made one.
All right. This one's a little unique for Big Don, and the Behnkes know why. It would not be a Bethany Hall of Fame ceremony without talking about a high school conference that started just blocks here below our campus in Mankato, Loyola, and continued all the way up Highway 169 toward the Twin Cities. Near the end of that trip, you come across Belle Plaine. And I cannot imagine how many times over the years our coaches made that trip in the Minnesota River Conference, because we got a lot of players out of that conference and that schools particularly. So much so that tonight, a true standout, 3-sport athlete in Kelly Banky Kayvon becomes the 3rd Belle Plaine Tiger to enter our Athletic Hall of Fame. To introduce Kelly for her induction is a former Bethany rival from Anoka Ramsey Community, go Rams, that's right, who went on to become her teammate at Huron University, Linda Coleman.
I'm going to apologize in advance because when I speak from the heart, I cry. Don't worry, I came prepared. So it's just a forewarning for everybody. Sports are so much more than just a game. If you look down at your program, it definitely outlines what a phenomenal athlete Kelly was when she went to school here. She didn't excel in one sport or two. No, Kelly had to excel in all three. I'm talking about excel. I don't have to, again, read everything on that sheet, but it just goes to show what a great athlete she was. It's almost unheard of in today's world. I know I have 3 children, and they play sports, and it's almost like everybody's being pushed to just excel in one. I'm a firm believer on what Kelly did is you're going to play 3. So I want to thank Lynette and Art because I thought it was very important that you did speak on Kelly's behalf on when you were here and experiences with her, because what I'm going to say is a little bit different. So I'm glad that she got that aspect from you guys as a coach and athletic director from being here. Instead of talking about what is on that program tonight, I'm going to tell everybody some things you don't know about Kelly. In fact, I'm going to talk about how many times Kelly has made me cry. Yes, you actually heard me right. I'm going to talk about how many times Kelly has made me cry. Are you worried now that you asked me to talk? All the times Kelly has made me cry. My community college playing against her Bethany team in 1992 and 1993. Bethany was one of the only teams that beat Anoka Ramsey Community College, and I hate losing. Understatement. Kelly was a huge part of why we got beat. She was a beast on that basketball floor. Kelly made me cry. 1994, hearing Kelly was going to transfer to Huron University, the same school I was transferring to continue playing basketball. Are you kidding me? An enemy on my team? I thought I was done with her. Kelly made me cry. Kelly and I went from being starters on our community college team, transferring to a university where we needed to beat out returners for a starting spot. We even nicknamed ourselves CBK, the comeback kids, because magical things happened when we would sub in together. This was a tough time, and we cried. Working hard and earning our starting spots that would never be taken away from us, we could now drop that CBK label. We cried together, happy tears. 1996, playing in the national championship game, losing by 1 basket to end our playing careers together, tears. Summer jobs in Huron, Kelly working at the country club and me dragging baseball fields working for the park and rec. I remember specifically Kelly driving by, waving at me, eating her ice cream cone, as I was sweating my head off, dragging fields about to pass out on those hot days. Tears. Moving on from Huron to start our adult lives. Made me cry. Meeting up every year for alumni games in Huron. Picking up exactly where we left off, as friends do. Happy tears. Dyeing my hair before one alumni game and it turning green. Tears. Until Kelly went to the store next door and explained my situation, found a quick solution. Happy tears. Kelly saying yes to being a bridesmaid in my wedding. Happy tears. Kelly asking me to be a bridesmaid in her wedding. Happy tears. Opening up to Kelly about my first child's autism diagnosis. Tears. Kelly following her heart, taking a leap of faith, and moving to Arizona. Proud tears. Hugging Kelly at her dad's celebration of life last year. Tears. By the way, Kelly, your dad would be so proud of you. He would be very, very proud of you, and he is looking down on you today. Kelly and I have having an unexplainable, deep, one of a kind, forever friendship. 30 years after meeting each other, starting out as enemies, tears. And tonight, speaking about my amazing friend, her being recognized for all her accomplishments, all her hard work, and her sacrifice in front of all of you. Shocker, tears. Sports are so much more than just a game. Congratulations, Kelly. The final member tonight being inducted into the Athletic Hall of Fame, much deserved.
Oh, it's my turn? I wasn't supposed to cry tonight. Thanks, Linda. Art, I need the glasses too. You've heard this 4 times, 5 times already tonight, but thank you to the Bethany Hall of Fame board. Dawn, I see some familiar faces, Ron, Steve, photographers, videographer, coaches, all the planning that goes into this event. Takes a ton of preparation down to the, the plate engraving on those cool little thingies. That's the technical term for it. So thank you. Not to bore you with that, but I also want to congratulate the other inductees as well. Bethany was 2 years of my life, 2 years of my 29 years on this earth. No, seriously, just a big picture here. Grew up in Belle Plaine, like Don said, a small town. It was about 3,000 people then. And have an older brother and sister, Chad and Wendy, and then my parents. Their names are Mom and Dad. And then I went to Bethany for 2 years, did play 3 sports. And then, as Linda mentioned, went to Huron University in South Dakota and played there for 2 years, and then went on to teach and coach throughout the rest of my life. So what I want to say right now is that there's very few chances in life where we get to brag about our past successes. So today, I can't wait to gloat and show off all of my accomplishments. And those accomplishments are sitting at those 4 tables right there. You can look on the program and you can see about 18 or 19 awards that say all MCC, Southern Division, second team, all tournament team, honorable mention, first team. I don't know what those mean, and I don't remember receiving those titles, which is fine. It's great. I'm not dismissing them, but what I do know are the names of the 25 people that are here today that have supported my journey and got me to where I am. In today's fast-paced world, we get busy with work, raising families, taking care of our houses, and before we know it, months or years go by without letting the people know who matter to us most how much we appreciate them. So I'm going to acknowledge every single guest of mine here and try to tell you just a little smidget about each and every one of them. I'm going to start by introducing my Belle Plaine high school friends. Margaret, Melissa, and Shannon, just stand up for a second, please. They know they're troublemakers, that's why they won't. And Jennifer Shinehouse, she couldn't be here tonight. So my Belle Plaine girlfriends, where do I start? I have 3 words for you. Summer of 92. Wait, is that 4? Do you remember how much fun we had? I don't either. It's a blur. It's a blur. But small town Belle Plaine, we had the smallest graduating class in years, probably in history. What did we graduate with? How many? 55 students in our graduating class. So that's why we became We're super, super close. I want to thank you guys, you three, for all the fun we had, Breezy Point trips, and all the trouble we raised, and all the meltdowns you heard me talk about when boys broke up with me, and not telling mom about all the small gatherings I had when her and dad went out of town. And we frequented a lot of karaoke establishments in our life, and I always had my go-to song. What was my go-to song? Baby Got Back. Sir Mix-a-Lot, I had to perform, and you guys were always my backup dancers. We called them the Banky backup dancers, and they did such a good job. But when I couldn't join you, they always made fun of me because they said, Kelly's at AA. Where's Kelly tonight? She's at AA. What was Kelly doing? She's not here. She's at AA. Well, AA, to most of us, means Alcoholics Anonymous, but in this case, Athletics Anonymous. So that's where I was. Margaret, one of my first teammates playing basketball, 6th grade. You want to share? Margaret and I had Saturday morning basketball, 6th grade, so this is 1984-ish. And, you know, it's not like today where you have the AAU and the year-round. It was one Saturday morning for like 2 hours. And Margaret used to go home after those 2 hours and cry to her mother because her arms were bleeding. And her mom would be like, Margaret, what the heck happened? And she said, Kelly Banky. I guess I was a little aggressive down low, posting up as a 6th grader. Yes, so she came home with bloody marks on her arms because of Kelly Banky, and that was the start. That was the start of it. Brian, Martin, and Lori. Brian, you were the first person I met at my Jordan job, and a mentor, and now a good friend. We played lots of volleyball and basketball together, and your wife, Lori, is beautiful, amazing, and I've never seen you happier. And Lori just told me tonight, I was walking around earlier and I heard the word competitive or competition, so my ears perked up, and I was like, what was that? And Lori said, Kelly is so competitive, I still can't look her straight in the eye. I'm like, but I'm a nice human though, right? I'm a nice human. Oh, and I have to say this before I forget. Stacy, thank you for allowing Lynette to say a few words about me. I kind of felt like Kanye interrupting Taylor Swift there for a second. Stealing your thunder, I did not mean to, so thank you for dealing with that. John Weber and wife Janelle, you two have been in my life since I can't even remember graduating college. And Janelle, you'd always come prepared, bringing me a little snack. Remember the snack? Chocolate milk. She'd always come to my games and bring chocolate milk. And John, you're just always a hoot playing softball and volleyball together. So a lot of these stories have nothing to do with my time at Bethany, but they do have to do with how I was shaped and melded to the person I am today. Angela and Amanda and Megan, wave. Call you my city friends. Megan, we bonded over a pigeon. Long story, you'll tell you later. Amanda, I was her health teacher and her volleyball and basketball coach. She's a tall one too, kind of like me. We would go out sometimes in our heels, and people would just constantly say like, gosh, you two are tall. You must play volleyball. You must play basketball. And we would just get so tired of people just assuming that when a vertically challenged person came up and asked us that, I would say, yeah, I did play volleyball, and you must play mini golf. Then they stopped asking. My brother Chad and his sons Diego and Lennon. Chad beat me on our we had a paved driveway with the hoops, and he beat me in horse and one-on-one many times, and I thank you for that because it pushed me to be a harder competitor, I'm sure. And Chad, do you remember when you were my assistant boys basketball coach, Ellsworth, Minnesota? So I was the head boys basketball coach, and Chad, my brother, was my assistant. And we took that team to playoffs for the first time in like 13 years. And one of the playoff games, right before halftime, the team we were playing against went into a 1-3-1 defense. And then Chad looked at me and was like, "Do you know what this means? They're in 1-3-1. And I was like, "Yeah." No idea. "Yeah." And then halftime buzzer. So we went into the halftime and he's like, "Okay, do you want to explain what we're going to do or do you want me to?" And I was like, "Here you go." Like literally handed him the chalk, because it was chalk then on the chalkboard, and he just rattled off the offense that just completely destroyed their 1-3-1 defense. Remember that, Chad? He just took over and he saved my butt that game. But it was just so proud to see him in the moment, and he was an awesome role model for those boys. And Diego, you're growing up to be such a handsome and ridiculously good-looking young man. I'm so proud of you. Okay, moving on. Fellow Bethany teammates and friends, we have Mark and Bonnie Fawning and Gail Carbonero. We all went to school together. Gail, you flew in from California just to be here tonight. And I'm honored. I'm privileged and honored. Thank you so much for being here. Mark, we bonded one of the first weeks at Bethany because one of your soccer friends dumped me. You know who I'm talking about, and it was Friday the 13th. And in the meantime, I was trying to set him up with Bonnie, his now wife, which now they've been together for over 30 years, so congrats to you guys. How long have you been married? 26 years, 2 Bethany grads. So congrats to you. But Mark, you got me through that tough time because you bought me one of my first cassette tapes. And do you know what tape it was? REO Speedwagon, yep. And I took that sucker home in my dorm and I played "I Can't Fight This Feeling Any Longer" over and over again. And really, though, his friendship meant so much to me, and eventually him and Bonnie started dating and then obviously became married, and we were in each other's weddings, and that was an amazing time. And Gail, talk about a dedicated athlete. We played volleyball, basketball, softball together. Bonnie played as well, and Gail, the dedication you had to basketball during the off season, I remember how you said you stayed in shape. Do you remember where you ran sprints? Tell me where you ran sprints. She ran sprints up and down her dad's church aisle to stay in shape for basketball. That's how dedicated she was. So, appreciate you. My high school basketball coach and wife, Doug Anderson and Pandy, they gave me flowers tonight. Thank you so much. Not sure if you know this, but my high school volleyball coach told me I would never play college ball. And I ended up being MVP my senior year in college at Huron for volleyball. And the only reason I believed I could play after high school was when basketball season came along, this guy, Doug Anderson, believed in me and had more faith in me than I did. One day he pulled me aside. I was a sophomore playing on varsity, which was kind of sort of unheard of at that time, but not really. And he pulled me aside and he's like, "Kelly, you need to go to the hole." And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "You are the go-to girl. You need to shoot. You need to shoot more." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And he was trying to get it through my head that I was like the ace in the hole, I guess you would say, as far as, you know, you're going to be the star of this team. And I had no idea. I was just kind of having fun and kind of slacking off until he told me that, and I was blown away and a different person after that. And I don't know why I kept toilet paper in your house on the weekends. I think it has to do with that, you know, that underlying, you know, I really like you, care about you, but I'm gonna, you know, pick on you and make fun of you and toilet paper your house. So, Pandy have always treated me with respect, always came with kind words. So, thank you, Doug and Pandy, for being here. Are you bored yet? Sorry. I know you don't know these people, but they are my everything. Sherry and Heidi, they are my family, cousins, and they've helped my mom and I through my father's death that occurred last November. They've been a big part of that, and we've grown closer ever since, so I appreciate your support now and throughout the years. Linda, who introduced me, that is true. She was my rival when we played Anoka Ramsey. We looked at each other with this just deep black hatred in our eyes for each other, and we hated losing to each other. And sure enough, Huron University, about 6 months later, after that state championship, she shows up on campus, and I show up on campus, and we're both like, hey. And it didn't take long for us to actually bond, and I played volleyball, which she played basketball. So when basketball season came around, that's when we became even closer. And I've never met someone who had a more competitive heart than me, I don't think. Talk about competition, she hates losing. I hate losing. Chad and Wendy know this. Sometimes we laugh at how competitive I am, but I laugh harder and longer and louder. Some say I would beat my grandmother at checkers and not feel guilty, and that's probably true. I'm sorry. Virma, thank you for coming to our country and giving me your two boys. Thank you for teaching me about your culture from Mexico, and I really appreciate you being here. Wendy, my #1 fan, sister. This girl's everywhere. She's been by my side since day one. The whole saying in our family when Kelly needs assistance is, help your sister. So everything is help your sister. And she would eat my green beans when mom wasn't looking for me that were on my plate. She would bring the big ace card sign for volleyball. I mean, she's the first one in the gym cheering me on and my biggest supporter. So Wendy, I love you. I don't know what I would do without you. Thank you. And just want to make sure I'm not missing anyone before I go to Mom. I wish Dad was here. If you've never lost a parent, it's a life changer. But I think he would be proud of what I've accomplished right now. And Dad and Mom made it to almost every single game they possibly could. They would drive, they would fly, they would bus, they would boat just to see a game. And tried not to miss one. My dad even took time out of his deer hunting when we were way up north playing. He came from deer hunting, came to my volleyball tournament, and then went back deer hunting. They were there. They were always there. So I can't imagine where I'd be without you. You've made me the person I am today, athletically, mentally, emotionally. And I just want to say I love my family. Chad, Diego, I love you. All my friends. Thank you for being here. It means so, so much. One memory I have from Bethany is it was a big basketball game, and if you've ever been my teammate, you know that I get a little sicky on the stomach before big games. A little like gurgly, acidy thingy issues. So Mom would always have Rolaids in her purse, or Tums. And she knew that I needed them. Well, one game I didn't ask for them, but my team was lining up for the national anthem, and it was kind of quiet, so we were all in line with our hand on our heart, and Mom screams out, "Kelly, I have your Rolaids." Okay, Mom, just a second. For your pregame diarrhea. Okay, Mom, thank you. and then the national anthem. And you know, mothers always want best for their children. They want to fix any problem they have. So I appreciate all you've done for me. Ending just on a little, I had a joke here, but I'm drawing a blank right now. It was something about God and Satan were going to have a basketball game. And God's like, well, we're totally going to crush you because we have Kobe Bryant and Moses Malone and Wilt the Stilt. And Satan's like, yeah? Well, we have all the referees down here. Bethany Lutheran College, 2 years, may seem like a small chapter in my life, but you've made a huge difference. And I wouldn't be where I am today without Lynette Jones, Lyle Jones, my volleyball coach, basketball coach. Lynette, you were my softball coach as well. Do you remember that one time that I sat you down after practice and I had something really concerning to say? And we were knee to knee and I was ready to like just come out and say it. Do you remember what you said? Oh my God, you're pregnant. No. I didn't answer right away, but I wanted to know why I didn't have the top kill percentage. And you're like, that's what this is about? That's what you want to talk about? She's like, work harder. Brilliant. She said, it's not going to be handed to you on a silver platter. Work harder. And I knew from right then and there, like, yeah, I had to work for it. You were like my second mother when I came to Bethany. You're the first adult role model I had right out of high school. So I really, really appreciate everything you've done. She was softball and volleyball coach, 2 years each. And first time I went to nationals for volleyball in Miami. But like I said, sports can be important. I think relationships and people are imperative, and no matter how many awards you win, no matter how many titles you get, it's the people sitting right here that mean the most in life. So again, thank you, all of you. Thank you.
Determination, skill, perseverance, a grit to win, and the rare ability to make those around them better. Those are the attributes that led our 5 inductees to this moment tonight. And add to that the unique ways all of them have continued to stay involved and given back to athletics. And on behalf of the Bethany faculty, staff, and students, we are honored to have all 5 of you as members of our Viking Athletic Hall of Fame. We wish you the Lord's blessings and continued success with your future endeavors. A reminder to take in the many activities of our Fall Festival this weekend, and safe travels to all of you on your return trips home. Thank you for your attendance and for your support of Bethany Lutheran College. Good night.